Story of three skilled guys. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful girl in the Le family. Not only that, she is also good at writing and proficient in all professions. There are hardly any beautiful girls in the area who can beat them. When she was of marriageable age, many young men, either from mandarins, from rich families, or from noble families, came to propose, but the old man named Le all refused. He told everyone, "My daughter does not want to be a mandarin, nor does she want to be a rich woman. She just wants to marry a husband who has a skilled job, and that job must be pure and no one can be better than him. If not, then you shouldn't come and waste your time." The news of choosing a son-in-law spread out, and talented people from all over came to ask for their debut, but no one satisfied the old man named Le. People only saw him complaining after each try. Talent in the world is really rare. One day, in the morning, he received 3 young, healthy, handsome men at the same time. After listening to them present their names and occupations, the old man realized that they were 3 talented people from 3 places who happened to meet each other here. A person who claims to be a good shot can shoot anything, no matter how difficult, and no matter how far. A person who claims to be a good diver can live underwater for weeks without fear of danger, and can find small objects in the ocean. The third person claims to be a skilled physician who can revive any sick person, including those who have just stopped breathing. See more fairy tales. Old Man Le was very happy, quickly led the first person out to the yard, pointed at a towering pine tree in the hedge and said, "I will let my family climb to the top of the tree to mark a spot. The leaf, how hard you try to shoot it until it falls in front of us, only then will I believe it's a real talent." Hearing that, the guy did not refuse and quickly prepared his bow and crossbow. Sure enough, just one arrow flew out, and the pine needles with lime marks fell down before everyone's surprised eyes. When testing the second person's skills, the old man named Le took him to the beach in front of his house. Then, he showed a ring and said, "Now I will send someone to row the boat out to sea. Drop this ring into the water, go in that direction and find it for me to bring back here for everyone to see." Without saying a word, he took off his shirt and immediately jumped into the sea. He only crushed the beetle residue, and he emerged from the water with a triumphant look, holding up the ring for everyone to see. To test the third person, they brought each other to the market. Pointing to a beggar who was about to close his eyes and die, the old man told him to try to revive that person. They saw the guy bend down to check his pulse and then leave. Coming to a bush, he turned to look for some leaves, sharpened them, and poured them into the beggar's mouth. Not long after, the beggar sat up and asked for food, as if he had just woken up after a long, tiring sleep. Seeing that all 3 of them were skilled, the old man named Le was confused and didn't know who to marry his daughter to. He told them, "All 3 of you are truly talented. It is truly a blessing for my daughter to be matched with you. But because there is only one boat but 3 heroes, what should we do now? Well, let's go to the tutelary god's temple to perform the ceremony and cast the hexagram to ask for advice. If the hexagram points to someone, please let the untouchable return to that person." The 3 people agreed and went to the tutelary temple together. But during the ceremony, suddenly a panicked family member ran to report that the girl who was hoeing grass in the field was suddenly taken away by an eagle. Hearing that, Everyone gave up the ceremony and ran to the fields to see the eagle flying straight to the sea. The guy who was a good shot quickly loaded his arrow into the bow and fired one shot. Without waiting for the second shot, the eagle was hit by the arrow and broke its wing, diving into the water, taking the girl with it. Seeing that, the guy who was good at diving immediately jumped in to save her. He dived all the way to where the bird fell and finally brought the girl to shore. But now the girl is just a soulless corpse, her belly bulging with water. It was the famous physician's turn to use his talents to find a cure for the girl. In just a moment, she vomited a lot of water and regained consciousness. At that time, the three suitors were competing to tell the story of their achievements to the old man and his son, surnamed Le. The first person said, "If I hadn't shot the monster, I wouldn't have found her trace. So marry her to me." The second person argued, "Wait a minute, if I don't pick her up, no matter how good I am at shooting, it will be useless." The third person also continued, "But if it weren't for my efforts to bring the dead back to life, even if you could save it, you would only save a corpse. So I deserve to be married to her." All three of them refused. The old man named Le and those who witnessed it were all confused and didn't know how to respond. Finally, they took each other to the mandarin for arbitration. After many days of thinking, the mandarin ordered the three young men along with the old man and his son to go to the palace. In front of them, the judge said, "In saving this girl, all three people have equal merit. Without one person it would be difficult to succeed. But doctor, you cannot claim credit like that. Just because you save and heal someone doesn't mean you want to marry them." For him, the person who is saved must be considered a benefactor, not a husband. As for the shooter, if he knew that no one would dive in to save the girl, his actions would only be revengeful and could not be called saving. Of course, he had good intentions when he shot a bird and not a person. But if you kill the bird without thinking that the person will also fall into the water, your intention is still lacking. So for him, this girl is just a benefactor. As for him, he was good at diving. He was one of the people who saved the girl, but the rescue job required him to hold the girl in his arms the whole time. Ancient books say that except for husband and wife, men and women are not related. Now that he has accidentally gotten close to that girl, it is only right that the two of them should be married to each other. However, for benefactors, the couple must accept them as sworn brothers. Hearing that the judge was reasonable, everyone happily obeyed. The three boys became brothers closer than blood. And the guy who is good at diving gets married to that girl. The wedding ceremony was very grand, with both men attending. 1. A story in Ha Tin titled Two Hai Gi Brothers has the same content as the above story, but instead of three guys coming to propose, in this version there is a fourth guy with the ability to see miles away. In the story, there is no trial or going to the tutelary temple, but there is also a plot where the eagle spares the precious girl, and the rich man, the girl's father, tells all four men, "Whoever saves the child will marry him. To be my wife." The far-sighted guy was the first person to see the eagle carrying the girl flying in the middle of the sea, so he showed him how to shoot and chase, and things happened one after another like the story just told. In the end, four guys from all over the world became close brothers. 2. The above stories are quite popular around the world. The famous French fairy tale writer Casquin, Cosquine, before his death, wrote a research paper on different versions of a plot which he called The Captured Girl Rescued and Its Characters. Having strange talents. 3. In the process of moving between different ethnic groups. In general, when comparing stories circulating in different ethnic groups, there are similarities, but each group of versions often has its own ending, which means how to handle and evaluate the merits of the characters. Talented in stories, each ethnic group also has its own unique nuances. We will only mention a few stories here. The stories of the Khmer, and the Lao people are most similar to our stories, especially in the ending. There were 4 guys eager to go to the city of Tak-Shi to learn a trade. One person learned about astronomy and divination. One person learned how to use weapons. One person learned to swim and dive. And one person learned to save people. Successful, they returned to their hometown, resting on the beach along the way. The next morning, the astronomy student learned that a princess, daughter of King Peri and Xay, was carried away by an eagle, and was about to fly over here. Just like our story, the other 3 guys took turns helping save the princess, and then all 4 fought to marry her. The Mandarin couldn't handle it, so he sent it to Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva tried to let him know that astronomy was the princess's teacher because he taught the other 3 people the direction to find the victim. The crossbowman is the father because he is credited with protecting the princess. The man who revived his mother was because he regained the princess's life. The person who jumps into the sea and hugs the princess is the husband. But once married, the couple must remember the other person's gratitude. 4. The Thai story is a riddle given by a prince, which tells the story of 4 Brahmins saving a girl, generally a bit similar to the above story. Then the prince asked, "Who deserves to marry the girl the most?" A friend of the princess responded to the spittoon, "Get someone to cure the girl and bring her back to life." The princess kicked the spittoon and argued, "Marry the diver because he holds the girl in his arms." A story by the Balochitan people, an ethnic group in the east of Iran, also has a similar ending to the above stories, that is, similar to the moral concept of the judge. There were 3 young men, not princes, who were fatherless and lived with him. The uncle set a condition for them that if anyone went out and found a precious and strange object, they would marry their daughter. The 3 precious things that the 3 people bought were a sphere-shaped object that could secrete water, that water could bring the dead back to life, a flying bed and a mirror that could see thousands of miles away. On the way home, the boy who owned the mirror suddenly saw that his daughter had died, and at that time people were shrouding her for burial. He quickly informed the other 2 people, and thanks to the 2 remaining precious objects, they returned in time and saved the girl's life. The uncle was confused and didn't know who to marry his son to, so he took the matter to the king for judgment. The king said, "According to the law, I will allow anyone who sees the girl while they are shrouding her to take her as his wife, because he saw her while the body was being washed. If he does not marry him, husband, she will be very embarrassed every time she meets him." In the stories below, the girl either does not get married, or marries one of her rescuers, but it does not come from the above moral concept. German story collected by the Grimm brothers. There was a poor family who said goodbye to their father and each went their own way to learn a trade. The first son met a skilled thief and listened to him, learning that profession. After 3 years, he became so good at stealing that he could steal someone's property in the blink of an eye, but the person who lost it still didn't know anything. The second brother studied distance vision with another teacher, and after 3 years of success, the teacher gave him a pair of binoculars, which could see things 10,000 miles away. The third person learned to shoot, and then with the gun the teacher gave him, he could hit the target at will, no matter how difficult it was. As for the youngest brother, he learned the tailoring trade. After 3 years, the teacher also gave him a needle that could sew everything without seeing a trace. On the appointed day, the brothers returned to their old hometown. They showed their skills to their father. The second person stood on the ground and knew that there were 5 bird eggs in a nest on a high tree where the mother bird was incubating. The eldest brother climbed up and stole the eggs without the mother bird knowing anything. The third person placed the eggs on the corners of the table and fired 1 shot, hitting all 5 without breaking the eggs. The fourth person stitched it back together and was as healthy as before. Then the eldest brother put the eggs in the old nest. A few days after the eggs hatched, each baby bird had a red rim on its neck, a mark of the youngest brother's stitches. Not long after, there was news that the princess was taken away by a dragon. The 4 brothers heard that the king would marry the princess to whoever could save them, so they went to the capital to ask for a ship to search for her. First, the second brother, using binoculars, saw the princess on a rocky mountain, and the dragon was sleeping, his head on the princess's lap. The eldest brother went up the mountain alone, stole the princess, got off the ship, and sailed away. When the dragon woke up and saw that the princess was missing, he quickly chased after the ship. The marksman fired 3 shots, the dragon fell, and the ship broke into pieces. During the emergency, the guy who was good at sewing made the ship back together and finally made it home. Seeing that they were telling their achievements with the aim of winning the princess, the king cut off half of the country and gave them to rule, so as not to have to marry the princess to anyone. The story of the Slavs in Moravia is similar to the German story, but the tailor is replaced by a seamstress. The first son returned from learning the trade and told his father, "I'm a seamstress, but I don't have to mend like other people. Whenever I see something old, I just say 2 words, fix it, and it's done." And he said a few words, and his father's shirt, whose elbow was torn, immediately healed. The second person said, "It's the same with thieves. Just think about something, no matter how far away, you can have it in your hand." The third person said, "I look up to the sky. I can see everywhere on earth." The youngest son said, "I am a hunter, but as soon as I mention any animal, it will immediately be shot dead." Then, the astronomer also discovered that the princess was imprisoned by a dragon on an island in the Red Sea. 4 brothers took a boat to the island. The thief only said, "The princess is here," so the princess was on the train. When being chased by the dragon, the hunter said, "Shoot to kill," and the dragon immediately fell, but its body punctured the ship. Seeing that, the repairman just said, "Patch," and finished mending the ship. When they fought over the princess, the king said, "If you continue to fight, I will cut my child into 4 and give each of you a share," because the king never says 2 words, but that is of no benefit. 4 people agreed to let the girl choose 1 man as her husband, while the other 3 became high-ranking mandarins in the court. The Nung people also have a story similar to the above 2 stories, but an additional person is apparated to have an ending with a slightly different development. Here there are 5 skilled brothers. One is a thief, one is an arrow shooter. One looks at binoculars, made of 200 different types of wood. One sews, and one learns swimming and apparating by saving the Dragon King's daughter. On time, they returned, and there was also a princess captured by the dragon so they could show off their talents, hoping to marry the princess as promised by the king. The seamstress assembled 300 planks into a ship out to sea. He has binoculars that point to the dragon's exact location. He stole and brought the princess onto the ship. He was a good shot and killed the dragon when it chased her. The repairman repaired the ship because it was broken by the dragon. Meanwhile, a goblin, Jia Chan, came to capture the princess and take her away. He had binoculars and found the princess in a cave deep under the mountain. He apparated to the ground and carried him back. He shot an arrow to kill the goblin as she chased him. The goblin husband came again to take her away, but was also shot dead. When the princess was rescued, because he did not know who to marry, the king told them to become sworn brothers to the princess and then made them high officials in the court. 5. Greek story. Greece. 7 brothers saved a princess from a monster, brought her to a closed castle, and told the princess not to look through the window. But at night the princess looked outside because there was attractive music, so she was captured by a monster hidden in a dark cloud. Those who are good at shooting quickly shoot through the clouds and the monsters die. One of the younger brothers, who was talented at juggling, raised his arm to catch the falling princess in time. When the princess returned to the place where they were competing for credit, the king told them to cut her into 7 parts to divide among them because he considered everyone had equal merit. The 7 brothers all asked for it and were greatly rewarded by the king. The story of the Chaldeans in Iran ends with the girl marrying the astronomer. There were 3 brothers in love with the same cousin. The father didn't know how to handle it, so he told them to each study a profession, and whoever was more talented would get married. One apprenticed as an astronomer, one apprenticed as an engineer, and one apprenticed as a physician. All 3 met at the same location. The astronomer said that the girl was seriously ill. The engineer immediately calculated the route, built a car to go, and finally brought the doctor home in time, thereby curing the girl. When they tried their best to compete, their parents and friends decided. The doctor who treated the disease would pay, the engineer would pay, but if there was no astronomer to tell the story and come back to treat the girl would die. So the astronomer was allowed to marry the girl. One of the Indian stories told in the book 25 Demon Stories, Vetala Pantachavankati. These stories are all difficult cases raised by a demon to consult King Vikrama. Has merit. Not belonging to an astronomer or an engineer, there were 3 beautiful, talented young characters who came to ask a girl at the same time, making her and her parents confused about what to do. In the meantime, the devil suddenly captured the girl. The first person who was good at astronomy and knew about ghosts was taken to Vindhya mountain. The third person built a car and brought it to the mountain. The second person kills the demon and saves the girl. The king judged. The second man was worthy to be the girl's husband. 6. The Moors, African, story also has the same ending as above. A girl is captured by goblins. A mother with 7 sons, a neighbor of the girl's family, agreed to tell her children to go save her. When her children returned, they saw a set of gold-encrusted saddles and harnesses placed in the middle of the yard, and in the middle of the house a set of beautiful clothes including hats and shoes. They asked their mother what those things were for. Mother replied, "To reward whoever saves the missing neighbor girl." The 7 children eagerly accepted the invitation. Within 7 days, a person with the talent of hearing the sound of falling dew discovered the goblin's castle and informed the others that the goblin was currently sleeping, and his demon teeth bit the girl's hair. The second person has the talent of putting your hand on the door and the lock opens, opening 7 doors in a row. The third person had the talent of entangling silk threads entangled in thorn bushes, and pulled the girl's hair out of the goblin's mouth without it knowing. The fourth person had the talent of juggling and chasing as fast as the wind, and in turn threw the girl into the sky through 7 layers of doors, then in turn ran out to catch her in his arms. When they got on their horses and rode back, the first person reported that the goblin had turned into a hawk and was chasing them. The brothers gathered together and shot dead. Then the girl took the person who removed her hair from the goblin's mouth. A Russian story also condemns a girl who married a thief. A farmer had 7 children, all with the same name, Simeon. They are young and healthy but lazy and have all kinds of bad habits. The father brought his children to be servants to the king. The king asked each person, "Know what to do?" One child answered, "I know how to steal." Another, "Child, I know how to forge precious objects." The third person, "Could hit a flying bird." The fourth person, "If a bird falls into the water, you can wade out and get it back." The fifth person, climbed to a high place where he could see the whole country. The sixth person, can build a very fast ship. The seventh, can heal all diseases. One day, the king wanted to marry a princess from another country but had no way to capture her, so he entrusted the job to 7 people. They boarded a ship built by a shipbuilder who completed it in a very short time. Arriving there, a person climbed a high column to look and reported that the princess was sitting alone at this time and could be stolen. The blacksmith immediately forged 2 beautiful items and went with the thief to the palace to sell. Finally, the latter found the princess and brought her to the ship and set anchor. The princess here was not captured but turned into a swan and flew away. The hunter immediately shot 1 shot at the tip of the left wing, and the bird fell into the water. The good diver picked up the beautiful girl's original form, but her hand was injured. It was the doctor's turn to immediately heal him. After bringing the princess back, the king realized he was too old. The king asked, "Which of the 7 brothers do you want to marry?" The princess chooses the thief. So he married her and gave up the throne, giving the thief's younger siblings positions as high officials, boie. In an Italian story in Venice, luck belongs to the person who mends the ship. One had 4 sons and sponsored a daughter. Every guy wants to marry her. The father told them to go and learn each profession, and when they return, whoever was talented would marry the master. When they returned, the father reported that the girl was missing. The guy learning to be a magician said that the girl was currently in the prince's garden. The apprentice thief sneaked into the garden and immediately caught the girl, then jumped out very quickly and took her back to the boat. The gardener sent a dragon guarding the garden to chase after him. The dragon tried to capture the girl, but the guy who was a good shot gave her a shot. The dragon fell on the boat. The boat was about to break, but the carpenter apprentice immediately jumped into the water, instantly repaired the boat and brought the girl back safely. As a result, her father married her to a carpenter. In the stories below, the central character is a girl who does not marry one of her rescuers, but instead marries their father. Story from Basile's Pentameron. One has 5 children. Seeing that his children didn't have any jobs but were only doing bad things, he told them to go find each one a job to learn, and told them to return home on a certain day for the whole year. On time, the 5 brothers returned together. The eldest brother is a thief that no one can beat, the second knows how to build ships, the third has medicine to revive the dead, the fourth is talented at shooting a crossbow, and the fifth knows the sound of birds. The youngest guy showed his talent by telling the news. He had just heard a bird landing nearby saying that a demon had robbed a princess and brought her to the Rocky Mountain, and the king announced that whoever could save her would be made his son-in-law. The second person immediately built a ship, on which 5 people went with their father to the Rocky Mountain. Just like Duke's story, the elf is also sleeping soundly, his head resting on the princess's lap. The eldest brother carried a stone for the demon to rest his head on, then stole the princess back to the ship. Love also turned into clouds to chase after him, and was also hit by an arrow and fell onto the ship. The princess died right along with her lover, but was brought back to life by a 4th person. When I returned, everyone competed for credit. The king assigned his father to judge. In the end, the king married the princess to their father, who was important in saving the princess. Just like the Belarusian story mentioned above, another story from the Greeks, Greece, and the Swahili people on the island of Zanzibar, Zanzibar, both have 3 brothers and 3 precious objects: a glass tube, a flying carpet, and a medicine to revive the dead, Greece. Magic mirror, flying mat, and vial of resurrection oil, Swahili. These objects all play an important role in saving the girl. The ending of the Greek story: to end the dispute between the 3 princes, his father took her as his wife. As for the ending of the Swahili story, when the father asked the girl to choose one of the 3 men as her husband, she chose their father, so that all 3 could call her mother. Compared to the stories just mentioned, the Spanish story, España, has a more strange ending, taking all 3. The first time, when the girl's father announced that he would choose one of the 3 sons to ask, she replied, "Take all 3." The father passed that answer to the 3 people and added, "Because it is impossible, I will marry someone who is interested in a rare and precious thing." In the end, the girl was saved thanks to the 3 people's 3 things: the magic mirror, the flying barrel, and the resurrection oil, and the first thing she said was, "See, you have to take all 3. Then the story stops here. The following 2 stories have similar and quite interesting endings. Both the brothers and the girl turn into stars. A story from Denmark. There were 6 brothers whose father sent them to go abroad, each to their own direction, to learn a profession. The eldest brother knew how to build a ship that could run automatically. The second person can drive the ship on land as well as in water. The third person sits in one country but can listen to what people say in another country. The fourth person shoots well, doesn't have to wait for the second shot. The fifth person climbed the high wall. The sixth person, a master thief. The story also has a princess captured by an evil witch. The king also promised to marry someone who could save him. The eldest brother immediately built a ship, which was piloted by the second brother. The talented listener discovered the princess's hiding place in a glass mountain. The talented man climbed to the top of the mountain and saw the wizard sleeping, his head also resting on the princess's knee. He climbed down, carried the good thief up, and in just a moment, he stole the princess. Then both were carried back to the ship by the good thief. Like the stories above, the train had not been running for long when the driver heard that the witch was flying in the air, chasing the train. The talented shooter shot a shot into the most dangerous part of the witch's body, as the princess told him. After being rescued, all 6 people wanted to marry the princess. The king and princess were very confused. But at that time, God did not want the brothers to fight, so they and the princess turned into stars, the Pleiades constellation. The Danish people say that the brightest star in there is the princess, and the dimmest star is the guy who is good at stealing. It is also a form of evaluation. Denouble story. The princess was taken away by a ferocious 7-headed dragon. The king sent his court official to look for him. When the disappointed general arrived, he met an old woman who said that if he went to look for the dragon mother, he could find the princess. Meeting the dragon mother told her to wait for her son's return and ask for her opinion. These 5 dragons have magical powers. The first person can steal anything at will. The second person found the lost object. The third person is good at shooting arrows. The fourth person built a castle in the blink of an eye. The fifth person chased after something as fast as lightning. When the 5 dragons returned, they agreed to help the king. The place where the princess was imprisoned was immediately discovered by one of them. The second person went in and captured the princess, but the evil dragon recaptured it and carried it into the air. But with just 1 arrow from a good shooter, the dragon fell down, dropping the princess, thanks to the quick move of the 5th person to catch it in time. Chased by the fierce dragon family, all 5 people and the king's messenger hid in a closed castle built by the 4th person in a short while. When it was time to compete for merit, the dragon mother asked the wind mother about it, and the wind mother told her to go find the moon mother. Mother Moon then transferred it to Mother Heaven. Mother Heaven said that Mother Dragon herself is the best referee. At that time, Mother Dragon said, "You are my sons, and this girl is my daughter, your sister." From there they flew into the sky and turned into 7 stars called Velachichi. Every year, these 7 stars have to visit Mother Wind, Mother Moon and Mother Heaven once, so that day people see them appear in the sky. The Mongols have a story that has completely different details and endings, but on closer inspection, it still has the same type as the story above. There were 6 young men who left the country. When they reached the place where 6 rivers intersected, they started to separate and each went their own way along the river, after each person had planted a tree that corresponded to each person's life. They arranged to meet on a certain day. Whenever they saw someone's tree withering, they knew that person was in trouble, and they had to go in the direction of that person's river to save them. A rich boy went upstream to a place to live with an old man and his wife, and they gave him a beautiful daughter to marry. One day, the king's soldiers picked up a ring with precious stones floating in a nearby river and brought it back to the king. The king told him to go find the woman who owned the ring. When he captured the other man's wife, the king saw that her beauty was far superior to his wives and wanted to take her to the palace, but the woman demanded to remain faithful to her husband. The king again ordered his servants to kill her husband. The husband's body was buried by them on the riverbank, gradually rising to a large stone grave. When the other 5 people arrived at the meeting place, they saw that their friend's tree of life had withered. One of them learned the magic to find a place to bury the body. A blacksmith apprentice used a hammer to break a stone, and a medicine apprentice brought him back to life. An apprentice carves a wooden Garuda bird that allows a person to sit inside and the bird can fly. An apprentice painter beautifies the bird. The rich son flew to the king's palace on a bird, circling several times in the air. The king was not tired of looking at the birds, so he called the beautiful woman upstairs to watch and feed the birds. On that occasion, the ex-husband let the birds swoop down and steal his wife away. But when she got there, everyone wanted to marry her, no one was willing to compete. "Then we all take it," they said so and cut the woman into pieces. 7. The stories of Indians and Arabs have even more strange endings. The following is an Arabian story from 1001 Nights. There were 3 princes who wanted to marry Princess Nu-Runi-Har, the godson of their father. The king's father decided to marry the person who returned from his trip with the strangest and most precious object. While they had not returned, the princess became seriously ill and was about to die. The first prince had magic glasses and discovered that the princess was dead. The second prince has a flying carpet that carries all 3 back to the princess's chamber. The third prince's turn let her smell the magic apple, so she came back to life. The king was confused and didn't know how to solve the problem, so he told 3 people to shoot bows. Whoever shot farther would get to marry the princess. The third prince's arrow was farther but could not find the mark, so the princess returned to the second prince. The later part of the story moves in a different direction. The third prince, Armit, was looking for his arrow and met the fairy Peri Banu. The 2 brought each other to the palace and became husband and wife, but the prince was occasionally allowed by his wife to visit his father. Listening to the flatterers, his father forced him to go find, for the first time, a curtain that could cover the entire company of the king's army and horse but could be held compactly in the hand. The second time, a magic water from the lion stream can cure all diseases. The third time, a deformed dwarf held an iron rod weighing 500 pounds. But the last time, when he brought the deformed dwarf to the court, with an iron rod, the dwarf killed the courtiers and made Artemis king of India. 8. Somewhat similar to the Arabic story is the Korean story. There were 3 men in love with one girl. The girl consulted a Taoist monk in Black Long Sun. He gave her 3 coins and told him to give 1 coin to each brother. Whoever could buy something more valuable would take it. The first guy who bought the magic mirror discovered that the girl was sick and about to die. The second brother bought a magical camel, thanks to which the 3 of them arrived home in the blink of an eye. With the third person's magic apple, the girl recovered immediately. She then told the 3 guys to compete and think about who was better, but after 3 days and 3 nights it was still not over. Before judging, the girl told an ancient bell that if she judged correctly, it would ring. She said as follows, "I will marry the third guy because he bought the apple not for himself, but for someone else." Besides, the apple was eaten, and the other 2 things of the 2 of them are still intact. After speaking, the ancient bell rang. So she married the third guy. 9. In this type of arbitration story, There are also a series of other stories, also somewhat similar in structure and theme. Please list a few below. 3 Khmer stories. 1. A monk who returned to the secular world and 3 girls. A monk who recently returned to secular life to find a wife. One day, bathing in the river bank suddenly collapsed, pushing him away. Not knowing how to swim, he struggled to call for help. 3 girls went to get water nearby. The first girl pushed out a piece of wood for him to hug. But he still couldn't get in. Seeing that, the second girl held out a bamboo pole for him to hold and pull in. Seeing that he was naked, the third girl immediately took off her blanket for him to wear. Seeing that he was handsome, all 3 girls fought to get married. No one accepts anyone, so they should take him to the mandarin. The first 2 girls both said, "If it weren't for me, your life would probably be gone." The third girl heard the mandarin's question and replied, "I didn't save his life. Because I saw he was naked, I threw the blanket to cover him." After thinking for a while, the judge said, "The first 2 girls proudly performed their duty. That action was very beautiful, worthy of being considered as the boy's mother." And the third girl saw that he was unclothed, so she took off the blanket for him. It is shyness, the affection between a man and a woman. Her actions create a relationship between the two. So she deserves to be considered the boy's lover. 10.2. The Thief and 4 Girls. A thief was working when he was caught hanging on the wall. According to the custom, he had to have 1,000 gold coins to redeem his life. There were 4 girls who had loved him before. One rich girl paid the ransom, but he was injured and lay unconscious. The second girl found a doctor to cure him so he wouldn't die. The third girl sold all her belongings to support him. The fourth girl cleans the wound every day and takes care of herself. Not long after he recovered, the 4 girls competed to get married. When brought to the king said, "The person who paid the ransom is considered the father of the thief. The person who heals is considered the mother. The person who sells personal belongings is considered the sister. And the person who cleans the wounds and takes care of them daily is consider her a wife." 3. Beautiful girl and 3 boys. There are 3 boys who love a girl but their parents do not agree to marry them. The girl naturally died. The 3 guys were very merciful. A cremator collects the remains for a proper burial. The second person hugged the grave and wept bitterly. The third person left his hometown to study the magic of bringing back the dead. In the end, his magic brought the girl back to life. All 3 fought to marry her. The matter reached the king's ears. The king treated the first boy as the girl's son because collecting the remains was the child's duty to his parents. The third person is the girl's father because saving and treating is the responsibility of parents towards their child. The second person is the girl's husband. Only if he is a husband will he embrace and care for his wife in death as well as in life. 11. In the book 25 Indian Ghost Stories, cited, there is a story similar to the story just mentioned above. The last paragraph is as follows. A girl was bitten by a poisonous snake and died. The girl's father performed a ceremony to burn the body. The first person picked up the bones and bound them to carry them from one forest to another. The second person picked up the ashes and built a house at the grave. The third person went from place to place. One day he entered a Brahmin's house and asked for food. The homeowner invited him to eat and drink properly. During that time, because the child was bothering his mother, the homeowner threw the boy into the fireplace and burned to cinders. Seeing that, he choked and couldn't eat anymore. The homeowner took a book, recited a spell, and the baby came back to life. He then stole that book to make the girl alive. Coming back to life, the girl is the object of contention between all three people. King Vikrama ruled that the one who keeps the bones is the son, the one who saves lives is the father, the one who builds a house next to the ashes is the husband. In the same book above, there is also a story. There were 4 beautiful, young, and strong boys at the same time asking a princess to be his wife. The first person claimed to be talented at making shirts that sold for a lot of money. The second person claimed to understand the language of animals on land as well as in water. The third person claimed to read many books. The fourth person claimed to be a good shot. She doesn't know who to marry because they are equally talented. The devil asked King Vikrama about this matter. The king replied, "The people who make and sell shirts belong to the common class, Sudrara. People who know the language of animals on land and in water belong to the slave caste, Vaishya. The reader belongs to the Brahmin caste. A good shooter is worthy of a princess because he belongs to the warrior class." 12. The Burmese, Myanmar, also have 2 stories. 1. True love. Similar to the Khmer story just told. In the land of Kamban Sa, there were 4 rich people who became close friends. 3 of them had son. The 4th has a beautiful daughter. All 3 boys were eager to get it. Before accepting the invitation, the girl's parents asked each of them if their daughter died before getting married, what would their attitude be? A person promises to burn the body and take care of the funeral. The second person promised to bury the bones in ashes as a good mausoleum. The third person promised to take care of him day and night at the grave until he died. The girl did die before she was 15 years old. All 3 boys did as they promised. Then, while the third person was looking after the grave, a Taoist priest took pity on him and magically brought the girl back to life. All 3 compete for success. Finally, it was necessary to bring Princess Tudam Ma Sari. The princess said, only the third person had true love, because he volunteered to work as a tomb guard, a job that society despised and excluded him from caste for 7 generations. Therefore he has the right to marry the girl. 2. 3 wives fought for one husband. Also in the land of Kamban Sa, there was a young man, the son of a rich family, who got married early. When he dreamed that he would die from a snake bite, he told his family not to cremate him but to let him float on a raft to the river. Later, he was bitten by a snake and died. His wife did as she was told. The raft drifted to a place where 3 girls were washing their hair. Thanks to their father's miracle of curing snakes, he was able to revive him. Seeing that the guy was very handsome, the 3 girls initially fought over him to be his husband, but then agreed to let him go home. A girl tied him a charm that turned him into a parrot. Birds flew into the king's garden and destroyed the fruit trees. People caught her and handed her over to the princess. The princess loves birds and keeps them in her room. One day, he accidentally took away the talisman string and the bird suddenly turned into a human. From then on, the 2 secretly fell in love with each other. Night is human, day is parrot. The king saw that the princess was different every day, and ordered a strict search for the culprit. He was so scared when he heard the news that he flew out the window to hide. As soon as he left the palace, the talisman rope fell and turned into a human. Being chased by soldiers, he entered a house where a couple and a daughter were eating. He told them the truth and asked for help. That family let him sit on a tray to eat, and when the soldiers came in, they recognized him as their son-in-law. After that, he was given his daughter as his wife. The princess lost her lover and gradually became sad and seriously hurt. The doctors are helpless. The king's father asked, and when he learned the truth, the king ordered a festival to be held in the palace, forcing everyone to attend so that his daughter could receive her lover. When the princess realized it, the guy's ex-wife also recognized her ex-husband. So all three women fought for a husband. When brought to Tudam Ma Sari, this person said, when the ex-wife let her husband go on the raft, she lost her relationship and had no more rights. When the princess let her lover escape without her, if she reacts immediately, her love will end from there. As for the girl who married last, her love has not yet faded, so she has the right to keep him as her husband. 13. The last story, The Three Brothers of France, narrated by Grimm, a father, whose assets were only one house, did not know which of his three children he would leave it to. So he told his children to go learn a trade, promising to return one day to compete. Whoever has more will get the house. The eldest brother learns the job of caulking horseshoes. The second learns the job of barber, and the third learns sword dancing. When they were all together, in the middle of their conversation, suddenly there was the shadow of a rabbit. The forest was about to pass, so the barber immediately took out a knife and soap, waited for the rabbit to run past the house, chased it, rubbed the soap and shaved off the fur without scratching it. Moments later, a 4-horse carriage passed by. He covered the horse's hooves to chase the carriage, removed 4 iron hooves from one of the horses in the group and replaced 4 new hooves while it was still galloping. To show off his talent, the youngest son took advantage of the rain like he was holding a jar to pour, took out his sword and danced it over his head. The rain could not penetrate the sword's path. His clothes were still dry. The father gave the house to his youngest son. 14. See also the story Fighting Over the Statue and another Thai story in the Strange Story Survey No. 39, Volume 1, 1. According to Tan Ton Magazine. 2. Collected by Tan Min. 3. In Ethnology and Magazine Folk Traditions, Volumes I, 2, 1920-21. Some of the stories below are excerpted from this magazine. 4. According to the Journal of the Indochina Research Society, BSEUI, 1886. Hoang Lam, Zuvan Thon. Lao Folk Tales. Latron Khan. Cambodian Folk Tales. 5. According to Hoang. Quay, cited. 6. According to Devez's translation. Mui Dian Magazine, Le Museum. 7. According to the book C. D. Kerr, Mysterious Death. Another version says, after competing for merit, those people pulled out knives and stabbed each other to death. 8. The Tale of 1001 Nights, translated by Galland, Antoine Galland, the story of Prince Artemis and the fairy Peri Banu. 9. According to Wild Grapes, a collection of fairy tales from other countries. The French, Basse-Bretagne region, also have a story similar to the above story. There are 3 siblings who want to marry their father's adopted sister. Their father gave each of them 1,000 dong and told them to buy whatever was most valuable. A person bought a pair of magic glasses. When he put it on, he was surprised to discover that not only his sister but also his parents were dying. One person bought a magic car that took all 3 home in just 1 minute. The third person bought 3 magic apples, gave one to each patient, and immediately came back to life. As a result, the girl returned to the person who bought the apple because the apple was lost and the other 2 things remained. According to Delarue and Tenise, cited 10. According to Pavi, Pavi Mission in Indochina, 1879-1895. 11. These 2 stories are both according to Kazkan, Kasqueen, the book cited. 12. All according to the magazine Le Muséum, cited book. 13. According to Burmese fairy tales, cited book. 14. Someone told the above story a little differently, as follows. 3 brothers went to school. The first was a swordsman, the second was a horseshoe, the third was not a barber, but a cook. When returning, the sword dancer took advantage of a hail storm and drew his sword to cover the vineyard. The rain stopped, not a single thing was wet. The second person also chased after and covered the hooves of a horse pulling a carriage. And the third person saw that his father liked mushroom omelets, so he told his father to take the plate and stand at the gate. After rinsing the eggs, he hit the handle once. The eggs flew up and went through the chimney. While he ran to the gate to grab the catching plate, the egg fell right into the plate, and the egg had already turned over, offering it. Dad eats. According to H. Pua Ra, Pura, Treasure of Fairy Tales, Volume 1, Tale of 3 Skilled Men. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.